Thank you, sir. Before I started my presentation, I would just like to share a very important statistic with you, a very important data point. Can I have what is coming down here? Okay. So can I have the camera here? I want to show something from my phone. So if I can be seen on the camera, I think it will be easier. If I can be seen here? This? Okay, laptop camera. Okay. So there's a very important statistic that I would like to share with you all, and I hope it will interest you all. So this is the statistic. No, I don't think you can see. नहीं, ऐसा होना पड़ेगा क्या? Okay. Well, I'm sorry for the... Yes, this is very important and this is very true. Please get the pun intended in this. This is actually, we are sitting in April 21 with about 8,000 cases of COVID-19 reported yesterday, and this is the fear that we are following. And this is actually the paradox that we stay in. There are a lot of paradoxes that keep on happening in the world. So I think this is true, but then let's now move on to the presentation. And right. So this is a study on homeopathy as adjuvant to standard of care in moderate and severe cases of COVID-19. A single-blind randomized placebo-controlled study at AIIMS Jhajjar. AIIMS Jhajjar is in Haryana and it is about 80 kilometers from AIIMS Delhi. And that's how AIIMS Delhi, a lot of doctors of AIIMS Delhi are posted at AIIMS Jhajjar, and a lot of reference from AIIMS Delhi happened to AIIMS Jhajjar. And during the time when we were serving there, that was in the peak of the last COVID wave in Delhi. And we had a lot of referrals coming from AIIMS Delhi and served by AIIMS doctors themselves in AIIMS Jhajjar. That's the team with Dr. Subhash Kaushik, Dr. Gurpreet Singh, Dr. Arvind, Mr. Arvind, Dr. Shweta, Dr. Tanya, Dr. Sayyed, Dr. Khushbu, Dr. Mani, Doctors Naval Kumar, Dr. Shashma, and Dr. Khurana. So this trial was registered in around October in the CTRI, and several attempts have been made and are being made and will be made to prevent and treat COVID-19. However, this is one of those situations in the history of mankind when enough is not enough. So this protocol was conceived in June 2020 when coronavirus infection had just begun to show its true colors in India. CCRs really wanted to help the ailing as well as produce some evidence-based data for homeopathic treatment for COVID-19. We had the simple objective to evaluate effect of homeopathic treatment when given as adjuvant in moderate and severe cases of COVID-19. Although it looks very simple and objective, it was not so easy to obtain, just given the kind of risk it involved. And the primary outcome was the time to convert RT-PCR COVID-19 to negative. And the secondary objectives involved the clinical change, comparative clinical change on the WHO Clinical Ordinal Outcome Scale, on the patient-oriented MIMOP scale, and on various lab parameters. I will just rush through this. I think we all know Ministry of Ayush, Ministry of Health and Family guidelines, and what are the moderate cases and what are severe cases. Otherwise, we can refer to these guidelines on 13 June for more details about which are the moderate and severe cases which we enrolled for the study. And this is the exclusion criteria. So what we were doing was we were simply individualizing the patients that we were recruiting for the study and giving them potentized medicines usually, and sometimes we were even adding on one or the other homeopathic mother tincture for and as an add-on or as a soother for the cough or for breathlessness. And we were giving these, the medicines, the potentized drugs were being given too early in the add-on homeopathy group. Right, and the randomization was computerized, and we have analyzed our data as per the appropriate statistical test. This is the allocation of 72 finally in the homeopathy group and 75 in the control group. So AOH is what I'm going to refer to my study group as add-on homeopathy group, and ST would be the standard treatment group, all through the slides. This is the baseline characteristic. You can see that the mean age group in both the groups is almost 58 years. And as is the common knowledge that men are being affected more, we used to see a lot of men in the COVID wards and in the ICU of COVID than the females. And we had only moderate and severe cases in our study. This is so you can see, interestingly, fever comes down in the line. So moderate and severe cases are not really presenting with fever because fever has come and gone, but they have a lot of other symptoms like cough and breathlessness being one of the most prominent symptoms, and fever is not reported as much in these patients. And you can see the data, how it was distributed across the two groups. I'm coming straight to the results now. So this is the first significant RT-PCR seroconversion that we got, where the p-value was 0.012, and the mean days of conversion of RT-PCR was about 9.13 in the AOH group and 12.34 in the ST group, which with an average of about 3 days earlier conversion in the homeopathy group. So that's, you can see on an average, it's always a 3-day gap between the two groups. So that was a statistically significant result that we found. And interestingly, the mortality rate in our study for moderate and severe cases was 13.6%, which was lower altogether than what is reported for moderate and severe cases globally. However, in AOH group, we had 43% less casualties than the ST group. So we had 7 casualties or mortalities in the AOH group and 13 casualties in the ST group. And also we had lesser patients transferring to mechanical ventilators. So you can see that in the AOH group, only 4 patients worsened and needed to have MV, while 8 patients had to be put on MV in the ST group. And overall, the mortalities were also lesser. So this can probably be attributed to the holistic treatment that homeopathy is giving to the patients, thereby also kind of, addressing the immunosuppression that your body would see when you are in a severe stage. So you have a multi-system, a multi-immune failure kind of thing, and that is where homeopathy is probably acting and also addressing the cytokine mayhem. And yet long-run conclusion on this sensitive variable of mortalities needs more research, but definitely this is something that we can, push further for, and this casualties is reported quite significantly. Right. And this is a very interesting, very practical scale which is developed by World Health Organization, which is called Clinical Outcomes Ordinal Scale. It basically would just tell you the clinical status of the condition of the patient in a go. It's simply that the grade 3 would be that the patient does not require any oxygen therapy, while grade 4 is that the patient is on low oxygen therapy, and grade 5 is that the patient is on high oxygen therapy. So what we did was that we enrolled the patients only on grade 4 or grade 5, the patients who were moderate or severe and were in low or high oxygen therapy. And this is where the clinicians, the treating allopathic doctors were helping us in deciding which case is moderate for us, which case is severe for us. Because when we entered the ICUs, we did not know how to interpret the PAPS monitors and how to understand, how much FiO2 force inspiration oxygen is the patient requiring and how to interpret it. So the diagnosis was being assisted by the treating physicians over there. So they told us which cases are for grade 4 and which are for grade 5. But interestingly, you can see that more AOH participants became oxygen therapy free and earlier within the follow-up period of 8 days. However, the p-value was not significant, but you can see that the results are very encouraging. Even with the patient-oriented MIMOD scale, we got very, very significant results with the patient overall feeling quite better. In the initial follow-ups itself, you can see that the patient started reporting to be better overall. And within 9 follow-ups, they were quite considerably better as compared to the control group. I would like to give a minute to this slide, because this slide is just not one slide. There's a lot of information about a lot of lab parameters that we have all heard of. We have heard of CRP, we have heard of D-dimers, we have heard of IL-6, we have heard of ferritin. And even when we were doing our studies, we did not know how are the results going to turn statistically. Even though we could see in the patients that the patients were getting better, the patients in the AOH group were getting better, but we did not know whether this is going to convert statistically or not. And but interestingly, you can see all the results. I mean, not even one result was negative in case of homeopathy. All the results were directional in favor of homeopathy, which is very, very encouraging for each of us sitting here. Because I think we have all dealt with COVID patients. We all know that CRPs are going for a 6, and we all know that we have to address these D-dimers and ferritin. But we don't know whether we'll be able to. This is the, I think, first time that we are reporting that yes, homeopathy is able to bring down the inflammation levels to this extent. The homeopathy is able to bring down the cytokine. This is an add-on, of course. We are not talking about homeopathy treatment alone, but this kind of result, this kind of comparison picture that we have been able to draw, I think is very encouraging for each of us sitting here to say whether homeopathy has a role in COVID treatment or not. And out of these lab parameters, we were able to find significant results in CRP, TLC, platelet count, serum fibrinogen, serum alkaline phosphatase. So here we had p-value less than 0.05, which means the results are very significant. And so we all know that CRP is directly associated with the inflammation, the rate of inflammation in your body, and it is an early predictor. Literature says, the latest studies on COVID-19 say that CRP is the first predictor for how severe your COVID is going to be. And within a span of 28 days of our follow-up, we were able to bring down the CRP levels, and that too significantly. So I think homeopathy, this is not, even if you had gone instead of me, you would have done the same thing. Because all we did was just individualize the patient and give the medicine that was required for the patient. It is just a homeopathy in action, nothing else. There was no exceptional medicine that was given. TLC is coming down, platelet count and serum fibrinogen, anticoagulant role. Which medicine? No, we don't know. Individualized medicine. And it brought down the platelet levels. It normalized the platelet levels. It normalized the serum fibrinogen levels. And it had a direct effect on anticoagulation. And interestingly, we did not know that we are doing something to the liver as well. When we were giving our treatment, we were not knowing that we are saving the patient's liver as well. But our reports say so. Our reports say that we have been able to control serum alkaline phosphatase level, which is a direct indicator of the liver toxicity. Now, I don't know whether these homeopathic medicines directly check the liver toxicity, or because we were giving the homeopathic medicines, so the allopathic doctors did not have to increase the dosage of their medicines. That checked the liver toxicity, we don't know. And we did not know that we are going to get this. But the results are there for you to see. The most interesting slide for all the homeopathic clinicians sitting here. Which medicine? Just individualized medicines. We don't know which medicines. Yes, we had some limitation of not knowing in just the limited sentence of presentation, where the patient would just say, "Doctor साहब और कुछ नहीं है, सिर्फ सांस नहीं आ रहा, मुझे सांस के लिए कुछ दे दो, सांस के लिए कुछ दे दो." They would not say anything. We would just observe the persona. Probably the patient is very anxious, or patient is lying down. Sometimes we were trying to give it on mentals, but mostly it was Viratrum viridae that you can see was given in as many as 13 in moderate and 9 out of 19 cases in severe cases. So Viratrum viridae really helped us. I thought it was just in our head, but then the results also spoke in our favor. We used to, this is true, that we used to give Viratrum viridae to the patient, and you would see the the oxygen saturation getting better. And we would see the requirement of oxygen, the breathlessness that the patient was having, getting better. We would just ask, we cannot do experiment too much. I would not say experiment. We cannot really, give a lot of instructions to the severe patients because they are very much bedridden. But with the moderate, we were doing this. We said when you go to the washroom, just take Viratrone Viridis 200, one dose. Just go to the washroom, and once you come back, you just let us know whether you're as breathless as you were before. And sometimes we were fortunate enough that we were on the rounds and we would see this happening, that the patient is not as breathless. But other times we would go for the next day follow-up visit and the patient would say, "Doctor साहब कौन सा दवाई दिया था, वो खा के ही मैं चलने जाता हूँ, बिस्तर से उतरता बाद में वो पहले मैं वो दवाई लेता हूँ." So I'm not saying it was only Viratrone Viridis, but where we did not have any other symptom, we just gave Viratrone Viridis and it was giving us results. Then we had arsenic album, we had Pioneer, we had China. And but yes, we interestingly saw a very good result from mother tinctures also. Spirosperma was really helping us in controlling the cases, especially the cases in ICU where nothing was helping us. We just gave, and in IPD, in ICU, what happened is that everybody is preoccupied. I don't know how much they want to really help us, how much the paramedical staff wants to, even though they want to help us, they don't have time to help us because they're very, very burdened. You can understand AIIMS, getting referrals from AIIMS Delhi, how occupied they would be. So what we would do is that we would be on our rounds for about, say, 6 to 7 hours across ICU and the moderate wards. The moderate ward was about, you can say in total, we were serving 200 beds, including 20 beds of ICU. So what we would do before we would begin with the round, we would just give them the medicine. We would just give them, say, Spirosperma for that matter, and we would say, "Ki chalo, abhi hum 1-2 घंटे round लगा के, then we'll come and serve the patient again." Because we know that patient compliant nahi ho payega, he is too restricted, and nurses will not be able to help us that much. We'll come back after 2 hours, we'll give them the dose again. And then we'll go again for our further rounds. We did that. We had to find our own ways कि patient compliance कैसे assure करें. Because patients were not really, even if they were willing, they were not in the senses ready to take the medicines on their own. So उसी 6-7 घंटे के अंदर we used to give. Not every time we were getting encouraging results, but whenever we were getting, we got really, really boosted up. So it was like, we could see that, the patients who were given Spirosperma, Viratrone Viridis, specific medicines which we could see that eventually we could then give them the individualized medicine because the patient was in more of a position to tell us, just like Hanuman says. आप पहले one-sided symptoms हैं, तो आप उसके दवाई देके, you just bring out the vitality of the patient, so that patient can express the generals, the patient can tell you how he is feeling. And then we would shift the medicine to the more individualized one, like a Brineura or maybe a Kalikar or maybe other drugs, once the patient is able to respond vitally to us. So that is where the role of tinctures really, really helped us through. So, small slide, a lot of discussion points here, but I will just try to rush through. We'll start from 1. So you can just look down there. We start from 1. So this is, I think, as a homeopath to a homeopath, we should be knowing. Sometimes we just don't get to know, sitting in our Ayush sector, what is happening out there. So RT-PCR negative status does not necessarily alleviate the morbidity and more specifically the mortality risk of the patient. This was a new knowledge to us. I don't know if it's a common knowledge now, but when we entered the study in October 2020, we were very surprised, because what we did was that they don't do RT-PCR repeats. But we did our RT-PCR repeats because we were in a research, we were allowed to have RT-PCR repeats because the kits were very minimal and the government had asked not to repeat RT-PCR. But in research, we were allowed to. So what we did was that we used to have a 5-day repeat of RT-PCR. So even ICU patients, we used to have RT-PCR repeats. And so within like 5 days, we saw that the patient is now negative. Our patient is RT-PCR negative. He will now survive and everything. And the next day we would get the news that the patient expired. And eventually this was happening. This first patient happened. That happened with first patient, second patient. We thought maybe just a matter of chance. But then after interacting with the physicians there and everything, we came to know that in the severe cases and beyond, critical care everywhere, it doesn't matter whether your body is still carrying the virus or not, because the devastation is already done. So once the devastation is done, virus is not killing you, but your body is. Your body has already given up. So it is to our knowledge, because my primary outcome in the study was RT-PCR negative, and I used to really be happy that, okay, I have been able to get negative status in my study. But then I realized, that maybe my primary outcome itself is questionable. Because why? Because even if I have been able to convert my patient, the patient still expired. So then we realized that secondary outcomes have become very important for me, because my secondary outcomes were lab parameters. So if RT-PCR negative patients are dying, then you know that it is still not good if you have achieved your primary outcome. So, and many patients, are discharged if they are clinically fit without even getting their RT-PCR status checked. And that's not because they don't care. It's because they don't have any option. The hospitals are full. You have to just pay one visit to one of the COVID wards to know how bad it is. In the COVID wards, the patients are fighting for bed. They're fighting for a single pillow. They're fighting for a sheet. So there, they would not, if you're clinically better, you're oxygen therapy free, or even if you're on low oxygen therapy, patients would be discharged. So RT-PCR negative is also not a reliable or maybe an indicator of whether you'll be discharged anytime soon. So you can be discharged even before you become RT-PCR negative because you're clinically okay. Regardless, a significant result in RT-PCR conversion to negative reflects the role of homeopathy in checking the viral load from further growth. We still would say that homeopathy is checking the viral growth. RT-PCR seroconversion is still happening. Clinically better or not is another question. Multimorbidity is a very major risk factor for severity in COVID-19. Out of 23 participants that we enrolled from ICU, 14 had more than 2 comorbidities. Almost a lot of patients were comorbid, but more than 2 comorbidities out of 23, 14 patients. Mostly it was a combination of diabetes and diabetes mellitus and hypertension. And so I think a lot of speakers have taken a lot of time beyond what was prescribed. So if I can be given 5 minutes of grace period, please, sir. So I would try this, sir. I'm already on one of the last slides, sir. So it is now like the comorbidity is definitely a factor, friends. And the effect of homeopathic medicines on most biochemical and hematological parameters used for clinical status of patients was positive, can be positive, more research is needed. Better clinical improvement with lesser mortalities speaks in favor of enabling homeopathic treatment in an integrated mode in the COVID treatment centers, including intensive care setups. We definitely can ask for a recommendation there through the study. This is a quick, just a slide directly from the inside of the from the ICU ward of COVID. Why is the audio not coming? Can we just have the audio? ये ऑडियो कुछ हो सकता है क्या? Okay, wait. I think I can do something. No, I don't think you can hear that. Okay, I'm so sorry. So here the patient says, this patient is saying कि आपने जो मुझे रात को दवा दी, उससे मुझे बहुत आराम मिला और मैं उसके बाद सो पाया और मुझे बहुत रिलीफ है आपकी दवा से. ये सेकंड डे पे है. We have lots of patients saying this to us, thanking homeopathy like anything. And this can do without the voice as well. This is the COVID team reporting from the ground zero. This was, I may just inform you that we were in COVID, we were in PPE kit for more than about 8 to 9 hours, and we used to get those scars that you see in internet, And the only thing that was driving us was the passion that we have to do something for homeopathy and nothing else. We would be seeing patients saying no to food when we were hungry. We were feeling like so famished that we wanted to have food because we skipped our lunches, we skipped our dinners. And we said, patients, "Kuch to kha lo," because we cannot have your food. You please have your food. Just my last minute of requesting first, thank you. I acknowledge everybody's efforts, but before I introduce my team, which is right here, I'm fortunate enough that my team is right here. I would thank the study mentors, Dr. Naval Kumar, Dr. Sushma, Dr. Khurana. Dr. Khurana, sir, I don't think I have words enough to thank because he is the one who was pulling it through. There were phases before we actually hit the ground that I just wanted to give up because there were a lot of hitches that are coming our way. Sir said, just don't give up at this point of time. You have to go and serve the patient if he wants it so much. So Dr. Khurana, I don't think we can thank you enough for this. Scientific Advisory Board and Ethical Committee for supporting us, participants in the study, lab diagnostic partners we really drove them crazy for just going and getting the results from home collections also, and staff of AIIMS, Sajjan and CCRH. Now introducing you to our core team, Dr. Subhash Kaushik sir, if you can please stand, and Dr. Gurpreet Singh, Dr. Shweta Singh, Dr. Tanya Chatterjee, Dr. Syed Ali, and Dr. Mani. If I can just have a round of applause for them. Please be, can you have a camera on board to benefit? Please be standing. That's the COVID warriors, in real time COVID warriors for you. And the senior most was Dr. Subhash Kaushik. And I think people half his age were really scared to enter the ICU of COVID ward. And he was the young fifth man, the youngest member of the team, even though age says the senior most. Thank you so much everyone, and thanks for bearing with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditi. I think it was a nice presentation. And such an experiences which we have usually in a COVID treatment center, this is bringing us closer to our allopathic counterparts, and they are acknowledging our efforts also simultaneously. Thank you so much. I think we are running hard pressed with the time now.